Hey, good evening, fellas, and welcome to our midweek edition of the Footybets YouTube channel. This midweek, we will be discussing about the league games and cup games across Europe's top five leagues. Remember what we always say when we get into it is that we have a target of getting to 10,000 subscribers before the end of November. Please do us a favor by clicking the subscribe button below, like this video, and turn on notifications because we'll be releasing videos like this on a regular. All right, let's do a quick recap of the games that we called last weekend. We called we called a couple of games, about 12 games in total, and we had about 4 games that turned out to give us vastly different results from what we called. Let's begin with the game in London, the London Derby, Arsenal versus Chelsea. There, where we had predicted a goal, but Chelsea were really poor on the day. They did create a couple of chances in that first half there, and just maybe if Kai Havertz were just a bit sensitive about Aubameyang's positioning. They might have gotten a goal in that first half, but Arsenal were basically just really dominant in that game. Yeah, so we called for a goal. Arsenal was Chelsea. That game finished 1-0 to Arsenal. We called for a Manchester United straight win against Aston Villa at the Villa Park, and man, it was such a departure from the result there. Aston Villa completely wallowed Manchester United. They're 3-1. We are called for an Inter victory away to Juventus, and we're shocked. Juventus won that game 2-0, and the last one has to be Real Madrid versus Rayo Vallecano, or rather the other way around because it was an away game for Madrid. And then Rayo basically won 3-2 there. So, hey, that's 4 of about 13 games that we called. So give or take, we're still in the money there. Give or take, just about 60-65% successful rate there. So, hey, we'll keep pushing on until we're able to hit all our predictions at once, right? So let's really get into the games that are happening this midweek, Tuesday today and Wednesday tomorrow, and some of them will be on Thursday there. In England, we're gonna have the Capital One Cup, or rather the League One Cup, happening this midweek, and then in Serie A, La Liga, the Bundesliga, you're gonna have games in the leagues there, and then you have a couple of rearranged games in the Eredivisie here. So let's get right into it. Let's begin with games in Spain. Let's look at the game Osasuna versus Barcelona there. Barcelona are on top of the league, 2 points ahead of Real Madrid, following Madrid's defeat at Rayo Vallecano yesterday. And I'm just going to say one thing. This is officially Gerard Piqué's should I say valedictory service. The game at Almeria, or rather the game at the Camp Nou against Almeria was his last home game. This one is going to be against Osasuna. I'm still tipping Barcelona to go ahead and win this one, even if it's an away game. Continue that, their nice run of games following that defeat at El Clasico there, and it just tells you what consistency can do. Now they're 2 points ahead of Real Madrid, even when they lost, against Madrid at El Clasico there. So yeah, I'm backing Barcelona to go on and win this game against Osasuna. The next game will be Real Madrid versus Cadiz. I think I watched that game yesterday. It was Monday night football there, and Real Madrid greatly missed Toni Kroos. I hope he'll be back for the visit of Cadiz to the Bernabeu there. I think it's very instrumental in their build-up play, and he just comes in the middle of the park there. If he's back for this game, I'm back Real Madrid to win. And even in his absence, I still feel like Real Madrid will have too much of Cadiz here. So that's a straight victory for Real Madrid and Barcelona there in La Liga. Those are the games we're calling in La Liga this midweek. Right, let's go to the games in Italy. We begin with the game Napoli versus Empoli. Napoli were impressive against Atalanta. They went behind, through Ademola. Ademola looked one there. A penalty that was considered by Osimhen, by the way. And then Osimhen drew them level on the day, right? And then even provided the assist for Elmas, to give Napoli the lead against Atalanta there in that game. And then they finished that way, 2-1 there. So, Napoli showed a lot of resilience, especially bouncing back from the defeat at Anfield to Liverpool there. So, impressive again, Napoli. They're top of the pile there with 35 points on 13 games there. So that's really, really impressive. I'm backing them against do the same thing against Empoli. I do feel like they will finish with a flourish, because this weekend is actually the last set of games for the World Cup begins in Qatar. So yeah, I'm backing Napoli to win this one. The other game will be Cremonese versus Milan. Milan were impressive again in the weekend. They secured victory against Cremonese. I'm backing them again to win, even though it's an away game there. I feel like Milan will win this one against Cremonese. So that's a straight Milan victory for me. The other one will be Lecce versus Atalanta. Atalanta, I wouldn't say they were really, really impressive against Napoli. They are still about fourth on the league table there. So yeah, they still had, to me, to me, I feel like Atalanta are punching way above their weight there. Against Lecce, Atalanta, this game has a history of both sides scoring, right? So I'll go for a goal or an over 1.5. So let me just repeat that again. Lecce versus Atalanta for us would be a goal or an over 1.5, right? Next one we'll consider will be Sassuolo versus Roma. Roma lost, the capital derby there against Lazio, and I know they created a lot, lots of chances, but they didn't really create clear-cut chances, to really expose that Lazio backline there. They lost 1-0, so it was a very tight game, a very defensive game. Like I predicted in that game, that it was going to be an under 2.5. It did turn out to be that way too. Against Sassuolo, I expect the game to be a goal, right? Sassuolo definitely almost always score in their games in Serie A. So yeah, Roma versus Sassuolo, I'm calling it as a goal or an over 1.5, right? Let me just repeat myself. Sassuolo, Roma, I'm calling it as a goal or an over 1.5, right? Then we'll move on over to Inter Milan versus Bologna. Bologna have been some kind of an obstacle for Inter in recent seasons. I know it was the game against Bologna last season that led them to actually lose the title to AC Milan there. They lost that away game, and I know that the keeper had a very horrible day. He made a mistake for the second goal that Bologna scored. But this was last season. This is this season, and I was shocked by the way they performed against Juventus. Juventus were just more up for it. It was a really disappointing result away at Juventus there. Although against Bologna, I'm not going to back them for a straight victory there. Bologna too, won at the weekend, and they themselves have been impressive. So I'm going to go for a goal on 1.5. So historically, this game has always qualified as a goal on 1.5 here. So yeah, it's a pretty safe bet here to go for either of these options here. Next one will be Verona versus Juventus. Hey, Juventus were impressive against Inter Milan. You have to give it to them there. Even when they lost, to PSG last week, and we all thought that Inter Milan was just going to go into the Allianz Stadium and then just blew Juventus away. But Juventus were very resolute. They were resilient. They were patient. Against Verona, I'm calling it as a goal or as an over 1.5. I still think that Juventus can be very inconsistent from game to game. So I'm not going to call out as a straight out, outright victory for Juventus. The safe bet here will be a goal or an X2, right? So a goal or an X2, right? Juventus Verona. The next game we'll now consider will be Lazio versus Monza. Right, I like that name, Monza, and I remember that their first victory ever in Serie A history came against Juventus earlier in the season. There, Lazio, flying high in confidence after getting that victory against Roma in the capital derby there too. Lazio too have been quite inconsistent too, but I just think that this is a home game from them, and just that confidence that they've gotten from beating Roma should permeate and should help them to beat Monza here. So I'm going for a straight home win for Lazio here. And let's go back to games in the Bundesliga. They are going for Wolfsburg versus Borussia Dortmund as a goal or as an over 1.5. Borussia Dortmund recorded a victory at the weekend there, and this game historically has produced a goal or an over 1.5. So guys, it's pretty much a safe bet to go for a goal or an over 1.5 here. Bayern Munich versus Werder Bremen. Bayern Munich won last at the weekend. The one I think was 3-2 or 4-3, but basically was by a 1-goal margin there. They still have a lot of defensive issues, surprising for me. But against Werder Bremen, I'm going for an over 1.5 or a Bayern home win, right? So that's Bayern versus Werder Bremen. I'm going for an over 1.5 or a Bayern home win, right? So those are the two games we're considering in the Bundesliga this midweek. Guys, let's go to the Eredivisie, right? Ajax are playing Vitesse, and Ajax lost to they lost to PSV at the weekend. I called that game in my last video as a goal. So yeah, they lost that game 2-1. I'm backing them to bounce back. Obviously, they are still Dutch champions. They are defending champions there, so I don't see them losing 2 straight games. I see them bouncing back against Vitesse. So you can go ahead and play an Ajax straight win against Vitesse. And let's go to games in England, basically the Capital One Cup there. Liverpool, the defending champions, are at home to Derby County. I'm not going to say too much there, but Liverpool were very impressive against Tottenham Hotspur there. I will back them to secure a victory at Anfield against Derby. And Liverpool can pretty much mix it up here. I mean, they can play members of the first team and they mix it up with guys in the academy too. Because obviously they've got a home game at the weekend against Southampton. So, not much traveling there, and then you can save the energy of those players there. So I'm backing Liverpool to beat the big counts in there, straight victory there. Manchester City versus Chelsea is the pick of the round, and I'm going for a goal or an over 1.5 here. So that's Manchester City versus Chelsea. That's a pick of the fourth round of the Capital One Cup, or rather the Carabao Cup. Manchester City versus Chelsea. I'm going for a goal there. Chelsea were really teaming against Arsenal and Stamford Bridge. I mean, I was really shocked. Arsenal completely dominated them on their own patch. I'm expecting to see the same thing at the Etihad. I expect Man City, should have at least upwards of 65% possession, and they should do a lot of damage to that Chelsea backline. I just feel like if it's not an over 1.5, then Chelsea might just be able to sneak one. But here, over 1.5 or goal is basically a good call here. And Man U versus Aston Villa is basically a repeat of Sunday's game where Man U lost 3-1 to Aston Villa there. Aston Villa were just really impressive. I think it was basically the new manager bounce that took over the Ramsey getting on the scoring sheet. So Aston Villa were very aggressive. I mean, the first 11 minutes of the first half, they already 2 goals up there. And even the first 5 minutes of the second half, they scored the third goal. So they're very aggressive. They were very positive in the way they approached that game against Manchester United here. At Old Trafford, Manchester United have a chance to just quickly exact a quick revenge on them. I'm going for a home win or an over 1.5 or a goal. So guys, the reason why I'm calling on this option is so that you can vary the tickets, right? So you can play one as an over 1.5 with one ticket, play the next ticket as a goal, and you can play another ticket as a straight home win. But I just feel Manchester United will have too much here. They must have learned. Obviously, they must have watched the video of that game. Looked at where they can make some improvements. For Thursday night's game against the same opponent. So yeah, Manchester United, I'm favouring them. So you can play a home win, a goal, or one over 1.5 here. Now let's go for Newcastle Crystal Palace. Newcastle basically have been impressive, and I think the target for Newcastle this season has to be finishing either in the top 4, the top 6, or basically winning one cup. And your best chance of winning a trophy has to be the Carabao, the Carabao Cup. Without doubt, they're playing Crystal Palace, and I'm going for a goal or an over 1.5 here. I don't know the kind of team that Patrick Vieira might put out here. Will he rest the big guns? Because obviously they have a game either on Saturday or Sunday. But I feel like teams like Crystal Palace, like Newcastle, this is their best chance of a trophy. They have to put out their best teams here. So that's why I feel like Newcastle, Crystal Palace, so basically their first 11, their first 11 that they would normally put out in a league game here. So I'm going for a goal one over 1.5 here. Arsenal, Brighton, Arsenal basically, really impressive. And I think after that dominating display against Chelsea at the Stamford Bridge, I think we all now have to admit the simple fact that Arsenal are in for the title race this season. There's no doubt about that. They were really impressive in that game. So against Brighton, I'm going for a goal or an over 1.5. So, but guys, don't forget. So after the last round of games this weekend, I'm going to be doing a review of the top teams across Europe, how they fared, in their leagues, in the Champions League, in the Europa League, and what I think that they can do going forward to have a very good second half of the season, right? So I'm going to do that after the next video. That will be probably in the week leading up to the World Cup, before we now do a proper review, or rather a proper preview of the World Cup teams, right? So guys, that's basically it. We've called all the games. They're about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We've called about 17 games there, guys. Remember, you can vary ticket. Let's just do a quick recap of the games we've called. In La Liga, we've called a straight victory for Barcelona against Osasuna, and a straight victory for Real Madrid against Cadiz. In Serie A, we've called an away win for Milan against Cremonese, a Napoli win at home against Empoli, a goal for Lecce against Atalanta, a goal or an over 1.5 for Lecce Atalanta, Sassuolo Roma as a goal or as an over 1.5, Inter Bologna as a goal or as an over 1.5, Verona versus Juventus too, same thing, goal or over 1.5, or rather an X2 there. And finally, Lazio Monza as a home win for Lazio. In the Carabao Cup in England this midweek, we're calling it as a straight win for Liverpool against Derby at home at Anfield. A goal or an over 1.5 for Manchester City versus Chelsea. A goal or an over 1.5 for Newcastle versus Crystal Palace. An over 1.5 or a goal for Arsenal versus Brighton. And the same thing for a home win, a goal over 1.5 for Manchester United versus Aston Villa. And lastly is the games in the Eredivisie tomorrow, which is Ajax versus Vitesse, and we're going for an Ajax straight victory there, guys. Don't forget what I always say is make sure you do your own research. Make sure you gamble with only an amount that you can afford to lose, right? Let me just repeat that again. Only gamble with an amount that you are comfortable losing, right? Do your own research. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel. We'll have more Footybets for you in 2 to 3 days time.